Hi, this is Shea Hillenbrand. You're listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Szollose.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Szollose, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a buddy of mine on I met about 3 years ago, and you know how the 21st century is. We actually met in person a year ago, and I have to give a big shout out to Leah Woodford. And Shea, you were a great speaker, man. You were one of our keynoters, so awesome job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate this time on your podcast. I've been wanting to come on here for a while because I love what you do, and I think we resonate with one another.
Absolutely. We're going to dig in and talk a lot about that. In case you don't know who Shea Hillenbrand is, guess what? He's a former professional Major League Baseball player who covered third and first base and played for the Boston Red Sox, Arizona Diamondbacks, Toronto Blue Jays, San Francisco Giants, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's been a two-time All-Star player, which I love to hear. You're one of those all-around athletes, as I say. But at the height of your career, man, you stepped away. And we're going to be talking about that, chatting about this, about rewriting your own story, having the chutzpah, as the Yiddish say, to just walk away from it all. Please welcome to the show, man, Shea Hillenbrand.
Hey, thank you so much, Brad. I appreciate that, and I appreciate this opportunity. So, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm one of those guys that did exactly what you said and walked away in the prime of my career.
Let's go back. We bonded. One of the things that I loved about your keynote is, first of all, you're a really humble guy. It's amazing to hang out with you. I was the MC, and we got to hang out in the green room and backstage and everything. But your story of what motivated you, what drove you through your baseball career, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things to where I think it's prevalent for a lot of people. It just has to be someone like me who was on top of the world on TV in front of millions of people, flying private jets, three mansions, 6 cars, 300 pairs of shoes. Doing a whole thing. So for myself, my story pretty much starts when I was 14 years old, and I was sitting on my bed, and my dad walked into my room. So this is like right before my sophomore year of high school. So I just finished 9th grade in junior high, and now I'm heading into high school, formative years, right? So I just finished baseball camp with the high school baseball coach. Everything was going great. My dad walks into my room, and he says he's uprooting our family from beautiful Southern California to the hot desert of Arizona. Ooh. And I was like, what? So when he left the room, the story I told myself, and that's what I base everything on, is the story that you tell yourself is so powerful. It decides the decisions that you make and the direction that your life goes. So the story I told myself when my father left my room was, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, and my dad doesn't love me. Because how can he uproot me from all of my friends, my community of sports, all that stuff at such a young age?
Right.
So when I reluctantly left all my friends and the community of sports in Southern California and headed to the desert of Arizona, I decided to become an overachiever through athletics. So I quickly in high school became the #1 soccer player in the state of Arizona. Not many people know about that, about me. And, I had offers to play in Europe. I had offers to play at universities. But my childhood dream was to play Major League Baseball. So after high school, I didn't have any offers anywhere to play baseball at any schools, professionally or nothing. A matter of fact, my childhood dream was to play at Arizona State University. I'd have an ASU watch. I'd have ASU shoes, all that stuff, and immerse myself. I wanted to be a Sun Devil, but I wasn't good enough. So I walked on at the local junior college, community college, and the only reason I made the team is because of my work ethic. So my work ethic was so strong that I was driven to go to the top to seek my father's approval. And that's crazy because that happens to so many of us men, but I didn't realize it at the time. It was at a subconscious level because of my relationship with my father. So after my sophomore season in junior college, I became the #1 baseball player in the junior college level in Arizona. And I was luckily gratefully blessed to be drafted by the Boston Red Sox. So growing up in Southern California, a diehard Dodger fan, in the 1980s, the consistency of that, if people aren't Angels or people aren't baseball fans and Dodger fans, the consistency of a diehard Dodger fan is show up in the third inning, leave in the seventh inning to beat traffic, and you listen to Vince Scully on the radio. And I would always envision Vince Scully announcing my name. I'd sit at the third deck of the stadium, and I would sit there and be like, my nachos in one hand, my chocolate malt in my other hand, and I'd always envision myself being on that field. So the reason why I tell you this story is because, for one, when I got drafted by the Red Sox at 20 years old, I told all my friends and family that I got drafted by the White Sox. I didn't even know what team I got drafted by. And they looked at me like, dude, you're crazy, man. What's going on? You don't know the Red Sox? They're one of the most prestigious organizations in baseball history. They haven't won the World Series since 1918, the Northeast, craziness. And I'm like, for one, I'm a Dodger fan. I don't know anything about baseball outside of Chavez Ravine. And then for two, I don't care what Sox it is. I'm going to the big leagues. It doesn't matter who it is or what it is or where it is. So over the next 5 years in the minor leagues, I became player of the year of each team I was on in the minor leagues 3 of the 5 years. And that gave me the shot for my dream, the ultimate dream of a lifetime to come true. I got a chance to play for the Boston Red Sox starting lineup in Baltimore 2001. And I was on the field with the major league team. And I was just hoping to go play for the AAA team, which is a level right below the major leagues. And the thing is, I was on that major league field during the national anthem. And I sat there like, oh my gosh, I made it. I'm here. And tears started coming out of my face. It's like all that blood and sweat and tears. And everybody told me that I couldn't do it. And all the times I wanted to give up, I'm here.
Right.
But the biggest thing is I had internal turmoil because all I was trying to seek was my father's approval. With that achievement, that goal, that dream, that vision was that. So that was the beginning point of where I was in my career, what drove me. I always tell people I played the pain-driven game. Like that pain drove me, that pain of not being good enough for my father, that pain from the story that I told myself over and over and over again just tore me up inside. Let me explain why. Because whenever you go into an experience, you're going to interpret that experience. Everybody's going to interpret that experience differently. And how you communicate that experience to yourself is going to discern how you take action. And that's going to form your belief system. So before 7 years old, it's really, really crucial that the prefrontal cortex, everything of your decision-making, processing, and analyzation isn't fully developed. So how you interpret situations and from experiences is crucial. And that ingrains in your subconscious system and your belief system. And I always thought I was never good enough. I'm never going to be there. I'm not going to be able to do it because of those experiences as a child.
Wow. That's a mouthful because, Dr. Wayne Dyer talked about the power of intention. And you and I, this is what we bonded over. My father never said he was proud of me. And I think a lot of men have these issues with their dad. We misinterpret their actions when we're younger. And as we get older, what do? We compensate to be a better father than they were. More hugs, more, hey, I'm proud of you. But in the subconscious, dude, and this is I resonate with everything you're saying. Everything I've ever achieved in my life has been to try and get my dad's attention, man.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And what I didn't realize, and we'll talk about closure later, but this drives a lot of us, don't you think?
Without a doubt, 100%. And the thing that's like I'm on a mission. I have an obsession to help people not feel the pain that I've felt through my story, the diversity of my life. And we can get into that as we go on through this interview. But I'm obsessed with it. And everything was driven by my approval and being good enough in my father's eyes. And I never really realized this. So every time I got into a situation with an authoritative figure, I would always say when I left baseball, I'm unemployable. I can't be employed. I don't like authority, all that stuff. And all stem back from, and I laugh on it now, but that stems back from how I interacted with my father. So here I am on top of the world, and I'm making millions and millions of dollars, living my childhood dream. And I'm sitting there just getting emptier and emptier and emptier because you have to disconnect from who you are to be able to go out there and perform every single night. Because if you don't disconnect from who you are, all those distractions, all those things that you have to deal with internally off the field, then you're not going to have a job. But the most important thing, the scariest thing for a professional athlete, especially Major League Baseball players, because we play every single night, is that if I don't have a job, I don't have an identity. And that's crucial because we always play, especially men. We have pride, we have ego, we internalize everything. We got to be macho. We got to be the strong. We got to be the stronghold, the cornerstone of our family, or whatever it is. And if you're a professional athlete on top of that, and you have little girls in the stands holding up signs saying, "Will you marry me, Shea?" And I'm doing autograph signings for $10,000 an hour, and little girls, teenage girls, will come to the table crying and shaking just because they get to meet me. And looking at it as a third person, I was like, just like I'm Justin Bieber, like in a boy band. It's crazy. But what they don't see is that deep, deep pain inside of me fueling that pain-driven game. So you can only take so much. And there's so many instances. I cut my parents out of my whole career because of that story that I told myself as a young child. Like we'd be playing basketball in the front yard, and I would have my older brothers with me, 2 older brothers and my dad. I'm ultra competitive, and I know you can relate to that. Yeah. And I just like crazy competitive, but I was super emotional, super sensitive, sensory acuity, all that stuff. And when I couldn't compete, and my brothers would block my shot, and they'd make fun of me. I felt like I was overwhelmed. I'd instantly start crying when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. I'd start running through the garage into the house. And my dad would scream at me because he couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to process that because we have a generational curse because he dealt with the same stuff with his father. And his situation was way worse than mine. And when I'd be running into the house crying when I needed my father to console me or my mother, whatever that was in that situation at a very vulnerable age, like I said, interpreting those experiences, he would say, "Go to your room and you're in timeout." And I'm like, dude, like I'm not acting up, like I'm not acting bad. I just can't. I'm overwhelmed. So I would be that kid in that room, and I wouldn't sit there sorrow. I wouldn't sit there like, everybody hates me. I'm going to be bored. I would sit there and be like, I'm going to freaking prove him someday. I'm going to prove it to him someday. Forget him. I'm going to show him what I could do. So it's getting that validation from your father is super crucial.
It is. It's amazing to hear. I hope everybody's taking notes because this is a masterclass in 2 things. It's a masterclass in manifestation. You know, I mean, listening to you not making the team and then going, you know what? And you got laser beam focus, man. But what was driving it? And it's amazing how we can create a reality based on being pissed off for something that just happened very, subtly when we were a kid. It's a powerful story, man, because I love the fact that you were able to figure it out years later. So let's go to that moment where you just said, "Hey, I'm quitting this." What was the decision? Because I know you adopted a child, and you've adopted more than one. Am I correct?
3, yes.
Yeah. So, and I love this because I've raised 3 stepchildren, and you're at the height of your career. Let's talk about that.
So, after 7 memorable years of my career, I'm sitting on my couch in my family room at my house in the off season. We have 4 months in the off season to get ready for the next season. I was getting ready to go play spring training with what team is that? Texas Rangers. I was on 6 teams. You can see all the bats behind me. That's each team I was on. So I'm getting old too. So I forget. So I'm holding my son, my firstborn son, in my arms, and I've always wanted to be a father. Like that's one thing that I wanted to have kids so badly because I love kids and I love animals. So I was holding my son in my arms, having a father-son moment. And this was an intimate moment on my couch in my living room. Nobody else is around. And I'm gazing into his eyes.
Right.
And all I could see is pure joy and pure happiness from this innocent little boy that I just adopted. And like, he's my everything. And I'm like, man, he's going to have a bright future because I know this stuff because I know how to have success. I know the formula. I know all that training in mind. I'm like, dude, like all I want to do is just pour into this kid and my son. And all I was trying to do is connect with my pure agape, pure unconditional love from my son. Even though he's not my blood son, he's my son. God brought him to me. All I was trying to do is connect with that and show that so he can feel that. But I couldn't connect with that love. All I can connect with is that pain. And that pain had become so great at that time after 7 years in the major leagues and after so many memorable moments, so many highlights of my career. I had a game-winning home run off Mariano Rivera at Fenway Park, the first Red Sox player to do that. 2 All-Star games, 3 home runs in one game, like incident, time, highlight after time after, like so many of them flashing through my mind. And at that point, all I ever was numb to everyone and everything around me. I was just numb. I was gone. Like my soul was gone. I had sold my soul to the game. I was already disconnected and hurting. I have to be able to do. Like, there's so many underlying things for very, very successful people have to go through, so it becomes very, very toxic. So at that moment in time, with my son in my arms, I decided I made a decision, proven to be the biggest decision of my life. I instantly, him and myself, I quit. I quit baseball. Wow. I was going to go in the prime of my career. I couldn't handle it anymore in that situation with my son. I had all three of my children were with me at that time, adopted children, and I walked away. I walked away from that one childhood dream I worked my life for. So whenever my friends would go say, it's too hot outside because I live in Arizona, and you can relate because you live in Vegas, you know what I mean? It's hot. There's no such thing as hot. And when people say they're tired, I go work. When my friends are partying, I go out there and work. And I train, and I go out there and do that, everything I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go, because I had that in my mind. I'm going to play in the major leagues. All those hours and I've swung a baseball bat probably 1,000,000 times. And if you really sit down and analyze that and think, that's asinine. That's obsession. And that was just halfway through my career. And I left potentially $50 million on the table of potential earnings of baseball, and I walked away. Just done. Didn't talk to nobody. Didn't talk to my wife at the time, parents, no one. This is where I was because I was isolated and I was by myself because I set that environment up. And I convinced myself if I come home to be a father to my 3 beautiful children and pursue my second dream, childhood dream, of owning a zoo, everything would be great. Yeah, you heard that correct. Owning a zoo. So what Major League Baseball player does that? Leaves baseball in the prime of his career, goes and buys a zoo, this guy right here. So I bought a horse farm, $5 million horse farm, and I accumulated 300 farm and exotic animals. And I had camels, kangaroos, llamas, alpacas, monkeys, raccoons, everything on the moon. And I had a vision of rescuing these animals and accumulating these animals and putting them in a petting zoo environment to give back and make an impact to the kids in my community, focusing on inner city, disabled kids, and child crisis kids. And we did that for 4 years. I rescued and adopted out over 1,000 dogs. And I had 56 horses, and it was crazy. And I funded the whole thing by myself because I had money. I had $18 million. So I didn't want to help. I didn't want any of that stuff. And it was crazy what happened at that farm, at that zoo. I transformed kids' lives on a daily basis. Like, it quickly became the biggest and baddest place in town. But after 4 years, what I realized is that pain came with me. That pain never left me. All I was doing is just masking it with something new. So Major League Baseball didn't do it. The fame didn't do it. The money didn't do it. The glory didn't do it. ESPN highlights didn't do it. On the field, millions and millions of people didn't do it. I was lost, and I was done. So after 4 years of creating an amazing environment, and people still talk to me now, that was 2012, 7 years later, like, oh, you own Marley Farms? Oh, that place changed my kid's life. They still talk to me now. So I quickly became the guy that owned Marley Farms, not the guy that was a 2-time All-Star in the major leagues. So they didn't care about baseball. They were like, dude, what you're doing now is insane. So what that did, it came with a steep price. I just received my 3rd foreclosure notice on my horse farm because I had no idea how to run a business. I was paying $34,000 a month just for the mortgage to keep that farm open out of my pocket. Not on top of the feed. I had 15 employees. I had 3 different businesses running. I was funding the whole thing. The worst thing you can ever do for a business, I did it. And my marriage was falling apart. I was losing my family, and I was losing the millions and millions of dollars I made playing baseball. And I found myself with my face in my hands walking down the stairs of one of my houses because I had 3 houses at my farm/zoo. And I'm like, what's the purpose of life? Like, I didn't want to go on no more. So I just, like, I'm done. And when I played Major League Baseball, I would get 500 texts every birthday. Like I was God. I was king.
Yeah.
I was at that time when I lost everything. I got 2 texts, not even for my birthday, not even one from a family member. It was really, really eye opening. It was crazy. I wanted to die.
This is an extraordinary story, and I love hearing it because you're running away from the pain, and a lot of people turn to alcohol and drugs and sex and things like that. And you decided to buy a zoo.
Who does that?
Right, who does that? But what is extraordinary is you moved from your head to your heart. That's really what I'm hearing in this. And you wanted so badly to move into the heart space. And despite being numb, despite all this stuff, you were driven by something far deeper than you in your subconscious. And I think this is the extraordinary part about you is you didn't know what you didn't know, but you were driven by something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best part about this because you were like the Tiger King. I got to have this zoo. I got to have it, man.
I am the original Tiger King. Forget
Yes.
that guy. I'm not going to wear a mullet. I'm not going to wear a knee brace. I'm not going to be smoking.
Nope.
I don't want to say what else. So no, yeah, and that's the thing is that while I was playing baseball, I mean, just Google my name. Like it's been so hard for me up until the last year for me to figure so much more out of what I'm going through, to be able to talk about, to be able to relive, to be able to go back in baseball, because I was so embarrassed of stuff I did. I was so I was so hurt. I was so childish. I mean, I got in fights with general managers. I got fights with managers. I got like everything. Like it's crazy, and that's why I'm so passionate about. Dude, if I can rewrite my story, I could help. Somebody else can do the same thing too. It's almost like what everybody always says. If I can do it, you can do it. No, this is it. I got kicked off my junior high baseball team. I got kicked off my high school baseball team. I got kicked off my junior college baseball team. I got in fights with managers in the minor leagues. I rounded third base in the major leagues in Toronto against the Yankees and ran through the stop sign when the third base coaches hold me up, and I was cussing at him, telling him he's a whatever. I just Google my name. I have an image on the internet. If you get Shea Hillenbrand images, I think it's funny now because that was a character in my story. Because I understand now why I did what I did. I have an image on the internet it's a profile picture of me in a dugout when I was younger, and it says "Do not want." Right. That crushed me. Right. It's crazy. So every situation I went into that was controversial, or if I acted a certain way or went off on somebody, I'd always go home that night and I'd feel like absolute garbage because I knew deep down inside that's not me. So during the reason I bring this up is because during those times, those incidences while I was playing Major League Baseball, like I instantly disconnected from who I was. But what I didn't realize is those things that led me to do what I did were just flaws in my character. And your character can be refined and adjusted and transformed. Yeah. You can't change who you are. Because so many people change their identity of who they are and disconnect from that because they do have flaws in their character. But for myself, the flaws in my character that I formed were because the story I told myself over and over again, and experience after experience after experience, how I interpreted that experience, how I communicated that experience, formed my belief system at a subconscious level, and now that drives and it presents you how you're going to interpret future experiences, and it was just over and over and over and over, and all of a sudden I'm living in this Super 8 negative cycle of sorrow and sadness, and I'd switch and flip on that to anger and pissed off, and I go back to sorrow and sadness and anger and pissed off, and it was just it's a sick cycle that you get into, and all that was driven from experiences that I experienced when I was a kid. Yeah. So this all led me to disconnect. So when I lost everything in my life, I lost my farm. I had nothing. I was living in a $750,000 house with no electricity. My youngest son, who was just in here with me, he was the only one that would stay with me. And at nighttime, I'd put candles on, and he'd say, "Hey, Dad," and he was like 2 or 3. He's like, "Hey, Dad, we going camping tonight?" In our house. Because we had camping. I was like, "Yeah, son, we're going camping." And all the while, my kids are going to their schools saying, "Oh, my dad played for the Diamondbacks. My dad played for the Diamondbacks." It's just like the ultimate crappiest situation ever. So when I left, when I lost everything, I decided to go the spiritual route. I wanted to try to find balance between my spirit, mind, and body
Right.
because I never had that. I trained my mind to the T with baseball, and I trained my body, but my spirit was so weak. And I thought spirit was religious because I'm a Christian. I
Right.
thought going to church, going to this, going to that. So I was at church 4 or 5 days a week. Tuesday night prayer night, Wednesday night men's night, Thursday night social night, Sunday I was holy rolling at a Pentecostal church with big mamas, and we're just rolling it in there. And I finally found some solidarity, and I finally found a little bit of balance. And I started speaking in schools, in churches, in prisons. And I get out of the pulpit, or I come out of the prison, or I get out of the school. I would speak in prisons, and inmates were trying to leave the prison doors with me not because they're trying to escape, because of what I had on me. They was gravitating towards that feeling of that energy that I had. I want some of that.
Wow.
But I'd go home at night after that situation. I'd go home that night, and I'd still have that pain inside me.
Right.
I'd be laying in bed with that pain. I'm at church. I think I'm connecting with God. I'm thinking this. So what I really realized is that even that religious aspect, even that religious approach was just putting a Band-Aid on top of that scab. I felt like I can't relate. And I want to be very sensitive with that because some of your listeners might be in this situation.
Yeah.
But I correlated myself with maybe that gal that was raped. I correlated myself with maybe that kid that was molested. When you go to church, your subconscious system, who we're in charge of, not God, we're in charge of, our belief system, has been so jaded and disconnected that I couldn't receive anything from there. And that came from my story.
Wow.
It came from the story that I told myself. So that led me to 3 o'clock in the morning. After I realized that even religion, I had nowhere else to turn. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying on the floor of a van that I lived in 6 years ago. I was living in a van.
Wow.
And here lies a guy on the floor of a van, lying motionless, done. I didn't have the fight in me anymore. And after overdosing on drugs and alcohol, here lies a guy, like I said, there's so many envy. And as the soul's leaving the top of my head, and I'm just clinging on to my last breath, I was just trying to cling on to thoughts going through my mind. Because it's the only thing the Lord has God has no control over our mind. We are the only ones that can control our mind. You know that with the martial arts that you do.
Yep.
The thoughts going through my mind are, you're a failure. Lost everything. What do you think your parents would think if you left this world today, Shea? What kind of dad would do this to his kids? Are you serious? Everything against what you believe in. And my answer to that, I don't know. Because I'm nothing if I don't have baseball. Because that became my identity. And I was tired of fighting that pain-driven game, so I let go. I couldn't go anymore. I let go. When I overdosed on those drugs and alcohol, I was just trying to numb that pain. I wasn't trying to do my life in. I couldn't deal with it anymore. Because I don't care who you are, it becomes overwhelming.
Damn.
And at that point, I let go.
Yeah.
I don't know if I died. The next morning, the sun peered through the front windshield of my van, and it woke me up. And by the grace of God, I woke up. And when I came to, I realized I had no side effects. Nothing. No stomach ache, no headache, no nausea, nothing. And what I took the night before, the concoction of pills and alcohol, 2 options I would have had. Hospital or dead. That's how much I took to numb that pain. I was at a point where my mind was so toxic. And the first thought that went through my mind was, where's my horse? After that. So this is 4 years after I lost my farm. Where's my horse? See, what happens, the reason I bring this up is a thought creates an emotion.
Right.
Thoughts create emotion. Whatever you think is going to create an emotion, whether it's good, whether it's bad. You only have 2 states of operation that you can operate in at one time. Either an empowering state or a survival state or primal state. You can't operate in both at the same time. And what sends you into each state is a thought. And what's crazy is what I realized with myself and the many people that I've worked with is that the thoughts that send people to a survival state, a primal state, that survival part of our brain that's negative, that's toxic, that's crap, that's just nothing. Because when you're in survival state, you can't create, you can't love, and you can't grow. You can only do that in an empowering state. But the thoughts that send you to a survival state, almost 100% of the time, are untrue. It's not even true. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't know if I can do a podcast. I can't get on stage. Nobody's going to listen to me. I'm not good enough for this job. I'm too fat. What are people going to think about me on social media? That's what I love about you, is you don't give a dang about none of that. That's what I love about that, and that brings that out of me to want to be able to stand in the value of who I truly am.
Yeah.
So when I thought about that horse, it created a good feeling inside. And I was just going through crap. And I wanted to ride that good feeling.
Yeah.
So I reached out to my friend and I said, dude, help me get rid of my animals at my farm, because this is 4 years after I lost my farm. I said, hey, brother, can you help me find my horse? He's like, what horse? You had 56 horses. I said, the horse. He says, Coors Light? And I was like, yeah. So what happens when you get on top of the world in Major League Baseball or whatever, you see it, most times the first purchase that guys do that are successful in athletes, they buy mama a house, they buy their mom a house, they buy themselves a house, or they buy them a Pippin car. I bought a horse because I always wanted a horse when I was a kid because I love animals.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know, man. So let's just that goes down to what you said, and that really resonated with me. It's like I went from my head to my heart, and I wanted to go to be who I truly am. So that's who I truly am as an identity, is a lover of kids, lover of people, and lover of animals. But I was disconnecting that. My story locked up all that inside of me. I didn't really realize that. So my friend found my horse, and he said, reach out to this person on Facebook, and this person has your horse. I went back to my van that night, not my mansions that I had, not my Pippin pads, flying private jets, to my van down by the river, and I reached out to the person on Facebook and said, you got my horse? And the person said, why? And I said, I don't know, just checking, I don't know. I was going to tell the person, oh, I overdosed on drugs and alcohol last night. I'm just almost died, I just I don't know, just checking on the horse. This is 4 years after I lost my farm. And this horse, I hadn't even thought about him before that. So the person said why instantly, because she sent that horse to Utah the day before I reached out to that person on Facebook. The day before, 4 years after, blah, 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 blah. And
right.
I if you adopted an animal for me from my farm, I'd have you sign a contract, and in that contract has a clause that says I get first right of refusal if you can't keep the animal, to keep the animal's best interest apart, so you can keep rescued animals. And that person freaked out because she thought I was going to yell at her because she had just sent that horse, my first purchase in the big leagues, Coors Light, City Slicker boy right here, to Utah the day before because she was going through divorce.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Timing,
that's the universe. That's when you put it out there. That's what if you're living on call, if you're living where you're supposed to be living, when you're trying to be as pure and trying to seek who you truly are, stuff lines up for you. I don't care who you are, whether you believe in God, you believe in the universe, you believe in Buddha, you believe in Allah, whatever. That's just how stuff works.
It's true.
Right? So what I'm trying to say is that for the last 2 years before I reached out to this person on Facebook for my horse, I would pray to God every single night, can you bring this person into my life that loves me and supports me? I need this person to help me because I'm gone. I was treated like God. I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to have relationships. I don't know how to do anything. And most importantly, bring a person into my life, a woman into my life that could be a mother to my 3 kids that are adopted because they are having struggles with the mother influence with their life. So the reason why I tell you this story is that person that had my horse after I thought about my dad is my wife today. That person is my wife today.
Wow.
We've been happily married for 4 years. We've been together for 5 years. The last person that would ever think about somebody that would be with me. It's funny because the first date we went on, we kind of knew each other from my horse farm. So we were acquaintances, and she knew my ex-wife or whatever. And I told her on our first date, my wife, you'll like this. I told her on our first date that, hey, I left baseball because I had to come home because of my kids. And I couldn't leave anymore, and I wanted to be a father, which was true. I fought that battle because I was always gone. You know what she said to me?
What?
She said, "Yeah, right. You quit baseball because you probably sucked." And right there, dude, you can relate to that. You can appreciate that. Right there, I said, I'm going to marry this chick because I knew the truth. This woman. I knew the truth. I knew I could play. I could rake, and she just flat out told me, "Yeah, right, because you probably sucked."
The good Lord above sent you Kristen. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
She knows how to tell you off and bring you to God in one simple phrase. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that's a partner. That's a true partner.
Yeah. So she held me accountable. She held me. She challenged me. She loved me unconditionally, and she helped me out. So why do I tell you the story? I needed someone else to help guide me through the process to recreate a whole new belief system. I had to do it on my own. So I went on this 12-year journey after baseball, like deep dive into personal development, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, everybody, all the way through. I got a PhD in this stuff, as probably do you. And I had to go through this deep dive. But most importantly, I had to have somebody there with me to hold my hand through the process. And it's hard for a man to say that, especially for a woman. But she held me accountable. She kept pushing me. She said, "You're better than this. You're not that person anymore. I don't care who you." And I would always say, "Don't you know who I am?" Like our first year of our marriage. "Don't you know who I am?" Because it's like everybody bowed down to me. She's like, "I don't give a crap who you are." She says, "I know who you truly are inside, and we need to get you connected with that person."
Yeah.
So after that, the long story with that, after a couple of years of that, I would go to bed in my dream home, in my dream neighborhood, with my dream wife by my side, and I'd still have a little bit of pain inside of me. So I went to my closet, threw a temper tantrum one night, ripping clothes off my hangers, like, "God, what do I have to do? Like, what is it? Like, baseball, I did it. Rescuing animals, didn't do it. Helping kids out, didn't do it. Losing my life, didn't do it. CL didn't do it. Women, my dream woman didn't do it. This house didn't do it from a mansion, a dream house that I was living in 2 years ago from the van. Like, all that, it didn't do it. What is it?" But I just kept going. I just kept going. And I got on my arm against all odds. I have that tattoo. I never had tattoos until I went through like the fifth part of my life. So I was on front porch the next morning, going through Facebook, because we have to be on Facebook, right? I'm sure you hate social media just as much as I do.
Yeah, I do.
It's nonsense, but it's like you got to be out there to create your brand. And I was sifting through Facebook, and I came across this ad because I was speaking in schools, prison. I love speaking. I love getting on stage.
And it shows. You're very good.
So I was going through this ad, and I saw this ad that says, "Tell your story in 4 simple steps." And it caught my eye. I've never clicked on an ad before. I don't play that game. But I clicked on it, and I said, "This is pretty cool because I need structure of how to tell my story on stage." Because I was thinking about just telling my story. I wasn't thinking about trying to figure out my life because I thought I was this way. I just thought I was going. That's how I was. I thought I was going to have to live with this pain. I thought I was going to have to live with not being fulfilled. I thought I was going to have to live like that. I'm just not going to be able to do it. So I spent my last couple $100s on this program because my wife at the time was paying for everything. And I went through this program. And it goes to the first step is it took me to the first step of the program. And what it is what I realized is that at the very end there's a breakthrough. And that breakthrough part is something that gives you an aha moment. So many people think that a breakthrough happens a week, it takes a day, a week, a couple months, or a year. But a breakthrough can happen at an instant moment of time, with an instant realization, with an instant understanding of your story, of what led you to where you are. So I went through this process. It took me 3 or 4 or 5 days, and I'm writing my story down because I wanted to share my story. It's in me. I want to help people. I want to inspire people. I want to light people up, bring life back in them. And what happened was when I was 14 years old, and I was sitting in my bed, my dad walks into my room, and he proceeds to tell me, "Hey, we're up with our family from beautiful Southern California to Arizona." What it was is they did that because of me. They did that. My dad wanted to stay in California. My dad wanted to stay. My family wanted to stay there. They sacrificed everything for me to get a chance to go to Arizona because he knew that would be the best chance for me to play Major League Baseball. If I didn't move to Arizona, I would not 100%. This is the first time I ever said it. It's crazy how things happen. I would never play Major League Baseball if I didn't move to Arizona. My dad didn't sacrifice that for me. But my dad had a difficult time communicating that because of his era, for one. And for two, his relationship. He didn't know how to show up. So if my dad didn't love me, he wouldn't have been out front playing basketball with me. If my dad didn't love me, he wouldn't have been doing all the things. He just loved me. And I want people to listen to this. He loved me to the best he knew how to love me. And that's it. And we don't understand that. We always put our expectations on other people.
Say that again. Say that for the audience because you got to get this. Say it again.
My dad loved me. This is the hugest breakthrough in my life. My dad loved me the best he knew how to love me. And that's why I tell my kids, I'm loving you the best I know how to love you. Your mom loves you the best she knows how to love you. It might not be where it is, but you got to know that I love you, man. You got to know it. I'm trying as hard as I can to break this generational curse so I don't pass it to my kids. So what I realized is I realized that they moved because of me. And at 41 years old, I went in that same closet, went on my knees, and like 1,000,000 pounds of unworthiness just fell off my shoulder. Because of the understanding of my story. And it sounds so cliche. It sounds stupid. It sounds And that's what people say, like, it's your story. It's your story. What's your story? What's the story? So rewrite your story. No, you have to understand your story first and what led you to where you are now to rewrite it. Or else you just put crap on the crap on the crap on the crap and just pushing it down. So I had tears coming down my face. And I sat at my dad's supper table. And this was like a couple of years, maybe 2 years before he passed away. He passed away 3 years ago. And I sat at the supper table and I told him my story. By just figuring out my story. And he started crying. I started crying. My mom started crying. He's like, son, we've been trying to tell you this your whole life. The same thing. He's like, I know, Dad, but I'm so passionate. I'm so driven. I'm so strong-minded. That's what got me to the top. The story I told myself day in and day out drove me not even to receive anything that they had to say. And I reached over to give my dad a hug, and he says, don't hug me. Don't touch me. Because he was uncomfortable, not because he didn't love him. It's just how, so it made me sad. So my anger instantly switched to love and empathy and sorrow for my father that from 5 years old till 73 years old, he's had to live with that same story that I lived with from 14 to 41. Wow. And this ruined this was his whole life. And I saw it. And his story is what led him with his experiences with us. Yeah. So I was able to kind of set him free and help him out. And then 2 months after that, he sat at my supper table at my house. He said, hey, son, I got to talk to you. This is like right before he was getting ready to die. He had all kinds of ailments. I don't even know how he was alive. Like, it's crazy. He was like bionic man. Like, he should have been already dead. Right. But he said, son, I got to talk to you. And when he said that in my house at 44, 43, 42 years old, 41, 42 years old, in my house, after being a multi-millionaire me, and after being on top of the world, living both my dreams, childhood dreams of playing Major League Baseball, all this stuff that I've accomplished that 99% of people don't get. When he said those words, son, I got to talk to you, my stomach just curdled like I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old when he set me at the supper table and just like, why are you doing this? You got to do this. You got to do it. Always reprimanded me because I always acted out because of my story.
Right.
So I sat down at the supper table, yes, Father, because you got to love and serve your parents. So I sat down and he said, son, I just want to let you know how proud I am of you. And I was like, what? Yeah. I was like, hey, could you say that again, man? I want to record that. I want to sit there. I want to get this on video. He said, screw you. I'm never going to say that again. But for him to say that, like he literally told my wife that, dude, you're stupid because you didn't sign a prenuptial agreement with my son. Like all this stuff because of like what his perception of me, because my character was crap, man. It was like horrible. So I was not always like I am now. But what I'm trying to tell you is that once you figure out your story, your true identity comes out. You can connect with your true identity. And when you do that, you're able to stand in your fulfillment and live a life of fulfillment. But most importantly, when you uncover your story and figure that out, you're going to uncover gifts and talents you never knew you had.
Yes.
I would play Major League Baseball in Yankee Stadium in front of 45,000 people. I would be the third best player in Major League Baseball to have success in Yankee Stadium. I could rate. Like, I loved performing on those big stages, pressure environments. After the game, after hitting a game-winning home run or having a big game, my highlights would be on ESPN, and that's pretty cool too to watch yourself on TV on ESPN. That's always a cool thing to do. I'm in a five-star restaurant. After performing on the field in front of millions of people, and I had no confidence to get up and walk across the restaurant to use the restroom. I would almost pee my pants every single time because I couldn't get up out of my seat and walk. The fear of people staring at me. The fear of people looking at me because I had no self-confidence. I could step to the plate on the field in front of millions of people, but I couldn't step to the plate at the supper table.
Isn't that amazing?
I would have nightmares the night before I'd go play in the major leagues, and I'd wake up in cold sweats about myself standing in front of my high school class having to give an essay. I was that kid in high school that would say, the teacher would say, hey, if you read your notes for your presentation, you can't get nothing more than a C. And I was like, give me a C, baby. I am not going to, I know self-confidence. So why do I bring this up? Because look at me now. Like, this is the last thing that I ever thought. Like, this is my purpose. This is my mission. This is my obsession, is to be able to use my voice to help other people find their voice and stand in who they are. And I got a formula that I have a PDF, and I created a 5-tool player profile system with modules
Nice.
and to be able to walk people through the process to ultimately align themselves with their dream and to live a life of fulfillment. So,
God bless you, man. That is just amazing. I love that you found the closure. I love that you dealt with your gooey crap that you were avoiding. Any man or woman who's listening to this show, I want you to realize, right around 40, 50 years of age, we try to push our story aside, and it comes up at 40 and 50 years of age. All this stuff we must deal with. And you dealt with it. I love the breakdown that you had. You've had it all. God, what is this going on? And what's hysterical, this is what I love about you. You never do anything half-assed. Like, you go to church 5 days a week. You're going to get on your knees and pray. It's like you have a mission. You can't do anything halfway. And that's what I love about you, man. You hit it 100% like you're training. Hey, how do we get a hold of you if anybody wants to reach out to you for your training, your coaching, and the things that you do, or to get you to speak?
Just DM me. I'm on Facebook at Shea Hillenbrand. I always tell people I have a profile right now. I tried to switch my profile to a page on Facebook. I'm in the transition phase for 7 months, so it's hard because I'm trying to reach people. I'm always on Facebook, and I'm always on Instagram at Shea_Hillenbrand, and then I'm on LinkedIn. So I try to do those 3 platforms, and I'm just creating YouTube videos and just trying to spread my message. And just like with my hat, it's my apparel company. When I was losing everything in my life, I was walking through my petting zoo, and this is crazy how things work, and this is how disconnected people can get. But once you figure out your story and understand what led you to where you are, this just didn't happen overnight for me. And I need to have somebody else walk me through the process, because so many times, especially when you got gooey, crappy stuff in your story, we don't want to go there. So you need to have someone guide you through the process and say, dude, I got your back. I got the goosebumps right now. I can go there with you. I will help you. I got your hand, because it sucks. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It sucks, but you have to do it. Whether you're gonna do it with a counselor, psychologist, or with us, or simply with it, you have to go through that to understand it. But I was walking through my petting zoo, and I was losing everything. I was like, what am I gonna do with my life? This was my second identity. I've never not had anything. And I had an audible voice go through my head. And it said, use your voice to help other people find their voice. That's what it said. And I correlate that to the Holy Spirit, and it doesn't matter. But it said, use your voice to help other voice. And my response to that was, how can I use my voice? I don't even have my voice. I'm done. I'm gone. I don't have a voice. Right. But what I didn't realize as I was losing that, the next 3 or 4 years transpired into hell. From losing that farm to almost losing my life, losing my relationships, losing everything. But the thing that I'm trying to convey to you guys is that voice said, use your voice to help other people find their voice. When I was going through the hell part of my life, the pit part of my life, where I was just numb and wanted to die so very badly. I wanted to die. The only thing I can cling on to was that voice. Use your voice to help other people find their voice. Nice. I couldn't cling on. So many people are like, oh, think about your kids, or think about your parents, or think about your spouse, or you can't. I'm sorry. When you're in that situation, I can't even think about myself. I'm so gone. How could I think about my kids? And I'm so embarrassed to say that. I couldn't even think about my kids, who I adored, who I loved. I was gone. I couldn't cling on to that to get me going through that. Oh, if I make it through this, it'll be good for my kids. I couldn't even think about that. All I could think about was, use your voice to help other people find their voice. And that's what got me through it. And I made a pact with myself that because I know I'm going to make it through it. When I make it through this, I'm going to make it my mission to do that. So I created a team. I reconnected with high school friends, junior high friends, who's a designer. We came up with 2V's Apparel, which is Voice to the Voiceless. And that's what we're doing, is using our platform. I got a T-shirt right here that says Conquer from Within.
Nice.
So we use that. We have another T-shirt, and everything has a message with it. So Conquer Within, what is it? Conquer Within is, here's 4 steps to identify your story. From that 4 steps, here's our 5-tool player profile system to conquer from within. We have another T-shirt that says File the Field. You have to have systems and processes in place to be able to focus on specifically to be able to master the task at hand.
Yeah.
I got this down pat. So I know the transformation of figuring out your story, but what's crazy, I know how to get to the top. I know how to have success, but my story got in the way. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. Doesn't matter how much star status you get. Doesn't matter where you're at. That pain is still there. Yeah. And like you said at the beginning, a lot of us cover that pain with external fixes. And the main external fixes, like you said earlier, are alcohol, drugs, sex, pornography, and gambling. Because that gives you that quick fix, that dopamine release, gets you that cover. But that pain never goes away. You just got to mask it. And then most importantly, what people do is not that. They eat. Food's the number one drug. So we have that, and I just keep moving. I'm doing real estate full time. Matter of fact.
I was seeing that, crushing it.
I always forget about that when I do these podcasts because this is my passion. I do real estate. Got a real estate team. Love helping people out with accomplishing their dreams and goals through real estate. And I always have people tell me, dude, you shouldn't be in real estate. Your platform's way bigger than that.
You got to pay the bills, and you also, while you're developing and creating and growing, you are helping the next generation of real estate people, because they get a chance to hear your message as well and work with you. I love everything you're doing, the charity work, the helping people out, you're crushing it, man. And I just want to say this one thing, and for those of you who are listening, or maybe you're on that path right now where you're beginning to heal some of this. Men have a tendency in our society and around the world to operate from the head up or from the loins down. We're either thinking, focusing, getting this done, or we're thinking about getting laid. I hate to be crass about that, but that's what it is.
No, it's true. It's true.
But as we wake up and we develop ourselves, we drop into the heart. And that's scary. It's painful. It's a lot of things, and we can sit there and say to ourselves, I wasn't loved as a kid or all this, but I can guarantee you there's closure. I went through a lot of years of dealing with this stuff, therapy, hitting a heavy bag, doing martial arts, all this stuff. And one of the greatest things that happened, and I too came to this realization, my dad did the very best he did. Yeah. He was the North Star in my life. He was up at 5:30 in the morning. My mother always had nervous breakdowns. She couldn't be there for me, but my dad, and he's my stepfather. This is what's wild. Wow. He took care of me. He was always there for scouting events, you name it. And after he died, he wasn't a big fan of saying, "Hey, I'm proud of you." He did that once, and I burst into tears, and I was crying. Right? I was 18. Yeah, I know. It made me feel good. When I went into his office after he had died, this is like 3-4 months later, and I started cleaning out his office, I found an early copy of my first book, Liquid Leadership, and he got an advanced reader copy, and I opened it. And Shea, he had highlighted his favorite passages, favorite quotes that I had done, and underlined them and circled them. And I got a tear in my eye, and I go, my dad was really proud of me. And I got that just from all the notes he took in the book. And so from one dude to another, man, it is so good when you can heal that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for being on Awakened Nation, but I have a lightning round. I always ask questions of my guests so we get to know the deeper sides of you. So I'm going to ask these. If there was another sport that you could play or you'd be obsessed with besides baseball, what would it be?
Ping pong. I love the fast twitch hand eye. I don't know. Yeah.
So you liked Forrest Gump, and he became a ping pong champion.
It's so funny because baseball players are ridiculously good ping pong players because hand eye, fast twitch, reaction. I would go to parties with other people. I'm the ping pong of the neighborhood, and I'd go in there. I wouldn't even warm up. I'd have a beer in one hand, and I'd just crush them. It's crazy how this correlates with baseball. I don't know how it does, but I probably wouldn't survive. But I think it'd be fun.
That guy's a dick, man. Yeah. I've always said this about you. We bonded over this, but I was talking to you. I was like,
you're one of those guys who's a natural athlete, and we see this in the martial arts. There's always a guy who shows up who can kick, punch, grapple, and knock people out, and it's effortless. And you're one of those guys. Me, I got these short little Oompa Loompa legs, so I hate running. I can't do a proper triangle choke, so I got to learn to do a scissor choke. So I compensated. But you're the full all around athlete, man. So ping pong.
Ping pong. I don't know.
Ping pong.
Let's go. Next question.
Now the starting lineup, against the Chinese ping pong team is Shea Hillenbrand. Wow,
ping pong master.
Everybody goes crazy. Good. My next question is, what should we know about you that people usually don't know about you?
I am imperfectly pursuing the fullest version of myself every single day. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I mess up all the time. And that's what's crazy. A lot of people don't, if we're sharing stuff, people think of you in a spotlight. You've experienced things that people just can't even fathom. But it's just, I mess up all the time. And my flaw is I want to help so many people. So whenever my wife and I would go on vacation, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to help the kids here on this island or this place or whatever. We buy a place in Mexico, a condo, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the streets, how to help the kids, and I need to do a baseball academy. So we've got a baseball academy in Mexico.
Wow.
And I'm always trying to think of that and always trying to be a servant's heart. And a lot of times people don't perceive me that way because of the struggles I've had with presenting myself and disconnecting and all that stuff. So the reason I tell you this story is that every time that my wife and I go on a trip now, we go on a cruise, so I can't get up and help them.
She's a smart woman.
She's like, sit by the pool, pina colada. Let's go.
There you go. My last question is, what is your favorite memory?
Oh, it's hard to say. A lot of people would think baseball, but I don't really have any fond memories of that because how I attached the pain to that game. I think like my children being born and bringing them home from the hospital and then marrying my wife.
Wow.
Because I was finally at a point when I married my wife, Kristen, that I could really appreciate it and that. So I try to make those moments every single day, be present in the moment and appreciate and where I'm at. It's a struggle for me. So I started meditating and doing a lot of different things I need to do to put myself in that position.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Shea Hillenbrand here on Awakened Nation. Thank you, Shea. I know you're a busy guy. I really appreciate that you're on today. Thank you.
My pleasure, buddy. Thank you so much for having me, Brad.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week for another extraordinary episode of Awakened Nation. Take care. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.